I'm a teacher by trade, so I went to school to be a high school history teacher, and there's really, my thinking in coming into this line of work is I thought I would come out with a lot of firsthand experience of how government works, or maybe how government should work. I think good government is accountable, it's transparent, and it's responsive. That's the deal that I made with the voters, was that I would be available to them when they needed me, and to listen to them when they're telling me I'm doing it right, and to listen to them when they're telling me I'm doing it wrong. Government is best when people show up, and when you see room for improvement, or you want to make change in your community, there's a lot of ways to show up, and so one of those is running for office. And then I thought that would work out for me, and it's been a privilege and great community to represent, and I'm happy that they'll have me for another couple of years. That they'll keep me around.
Welcome to the Good Government Show. I'm Dave Martin, and you're about to hear a conversation with Kevin Shutty. Kevin's a younger member of the Mason County, Washington Board of Commissioners, and while a younger commissioner, he certainly made an impact. Just some of the groups Kevin is a member of includes the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency, the Alliance for a Healthy South Sound, and the Puget Sound's Partnerships Ecosystems Coordination Board. He's also on the Mason County Planning Advisory Commission, and he's an adjunct faculty member of the Olympic College, and he's a former high school teacher. So, I learned a lot about shellfish. Mason County is west of Seattle, and it's right on Puget Sound, and with justifiable pride, Kevin says his area has some of the best shellfish anywhere, including the local specialty gooey duck. Okay, look it up, Google it. I'll wait. All right, check it out. Yep, that's gooey duck. All right, you got to look it up. Okay, anyway, back to where we were. Apparently, gooey duck is the pride of Mason County. Kevin's region includes the Olympic National Forest and a national park. There's 2 nationally recognized Native American tribes, so there's a lot of local issues to deal with that are unique to the county. So get ready to travel to Mason County and my conversation with Kevin Shutty, and I'll have that right after this. The Good Government Show is sponsored by NACo. That's the National Association of Counties. County government is actually the oldest form of government in the United States, and it touches more people directly. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water and sewers. In most of the country, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government. NACo is a nationwide organization that represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices, because when county government works well, that's just good government. Welcome to the Good Government Show, and a conversation with, and we're about to have a conversation with Kevin Shutty.
Correct.
Shutty, have I said it correct?
Kevin Shutty, you got it right.
Kevin Shutty.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from and what you do.
Yeah. So great to be here, Kevin Shutty. I'm a county commissioner for Mason County in Washington State. So we're about an hour west of Seattle, and so we're tucked in there between Olympic National Park and Puget Sound and the Pacific Ocean. So we're a little bit more rural, but definitely still connected to a lot of our urban partners closer to the Cascades.
And you're on Puget Sound?
Yes, yeah. So our county is on Puget Sound, South Puget Sound, and so we have a lot of great water recreation, a lot of great fishing and shellfish industry partners in our community, and so it's a beautiful place to live and represent.
Do you fish yourself?
I don't fish, but I do like to have what our locals are bringing in. So we have, we have. I'm sure some of the folks from the Chesapeake Bay area and probably New England wouldn't like me saying this, but we do have the world's best shellfish in Mason County, and so I'll put ours up against anybody else's any day.
All right, okay, good. We're gonna come back to that.
Excellent.
You'll see how in a little while. Are there are the salmon, I think you mentioned, and shellfish, are these issues that you have to tackle with to keep them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are big parts of our heritage in Mason County in Western Washington. They're, our tribal partners have relied on salmon and shellfish, time immemorial, from the very beginning. And so we have a cultural obligation to provide clean water and do restoration projects to enhance our salmon runs and our shellfish fish growing opportunities, but it's also a recreational and economic issue for us as well. And so, we're bringing people in from, frankly, all over the world. We're a major exporter of oysters to the Asian market. Last year, we reopened our markets in Europe thanks to some hard work between the federal government here and the European Union. And so it's a big environmental issue, but it also has these trickle-down economic.
So there's Mason County oysters in Europe.
There are.
Are there?
All over the world. Absolutely, yeah. So we have great.
What is it about Mason County oysters?
Well,
what are they? What's the brand? What's the?
So it's the way that they're grown. It's the water that we have, and it's.
Is it a particular kind of oyster?
Yeah. So we have the Olympia native oyster is a big one that we export.
Okay.
But the main one, especially into the Asian markets, that is a delicacy over there, is gooey duck. And so for you and your listeners, I'll have you go Google gooey duck.
Gooey duck.
GEODUCK gooey duck.
Oyster.
And it's once you see a gooey duck, you never forget that you saw a gooey duck.
Okay.
But
I'll buy that.
But it's a major export of ours, especially to the Asian markets, and it's a real delicacy over there. And our growers have perfected it over the past couple of centuries of growing in our region.
Have you had your oysters overseas?
I have not personally, but you can definitely find them there. And
I just wonder if you did a little quality control.
Yeah, I know.
When you were in Japan or something.
That gives me a great idea. Maybe I'll go home to my commission and say I need to go do a little.
I need to do a little fact-finding.
Absolutely, let's go run this down. But yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah.
You mentioned something also. You said our tribal partners.
Yeah.
Not an issue many counties have to work with. Explain to me what that's like.
Yeah, so we have two federally recognized tribes in Mason County. We have the Squaxin Island tribe and the Skokomish tribe, and we work with them on a variety of issues, government to government. So, of course, I mentioned the environmental side of things, but also when it comes to criminal justice, when it comes to economic development. They're good partners in that, and we have to make sure that we're including them in our decision making, and that there's always a seat at the table for them when we're going through those processes.
Is that easy to juggle?
Not always. I think sometimes we like to think that all of our priorities are in total alignment. But I think the history might show otherwise, and so that gives us an opportunity to really kind of lean into it.
I think it's fair to say history shows otherwise.
For sure. Yeah. So I think we just have to be mindful of those things, and where there are areas that we our governments might have a disagreement or a priority difference, that gives us an opportunity to kind of lean into that a little bit more and understand where those differences are, and then when there are places that we are in alignment, to really run with those areas and build those positive outcomes.
Have there been occasions when you've tried to do something and one of your tribal partners said, "Oh no, doesn't work that way"?
Yeah, I think one of the major areas is we're dealing statewide in Washington with water availability. Not a whole lot different than other parts of the country, in particular in the Southwest. But when we're dealing with water availability issues that impacts development, and counties are reliant upon growth to fund basic everyday services, and so we need to figure out that balance when we're looking at water rights and availability, but also sort of trying to understand, well, how are we going to fund these other critical programs and services that people in both the tribal communities and the community broadly come to expect from local government.
I think we touched about it a little bit, but you mentioned shellfish and salmon. Mm-hmm. I think you said you had programs for both of them. Can you explain a little bit about those? Yeah, so in the past year, we just stood up our first countywide clean water district, and so we have a lot of people who are on septic systems in our community, and so we want to make sure that people are maintaining and operating those safely so that there isn't runoff into the growing areas, and what that would eventually lead to is downgrades from the State Department of Health and potentially closures for those harvesting areas. And so we're working with property owners, we're working with our conservation district, and again our tribal partners on just sort of focusing in on those things that create water quality issues. And then the other thing that we work on quite a bit, and this is a state and federal issue as well, is fish passage barrier removal, so culvert replacement. So, when those salmon are coming back, and going through their reproductive cycle, they need to be able to get back up into their, where they lay their eggs and grow
new baby salmon to send back out. And so really a lot of effort on the state and county side to remove those barriers and replace culverts and make sure that those ecosystems are functioning the way that they did before there was development and before other logging practices and things like that. So just a lot of restoration work.
Now, you first got elected, I think you were telling me earlier, at 31.
Yes, yeah.
Not usually the age someone becomes a county commissioner. What made you decide to do it?
I really thought I had served on our local planning commission, and so kind of got me involved in sort of the policy thinking and deciding side of work, and just really, thought that there was an opportunity to bring, a different perspective to the county. When I first got elected, we were still using WordPerfect, on our computer systems, and just there were just a lot of things that we just needed to take that leap and embrace.
Did others take the leap and embrace it with you who are on the board?
Well, I'll tell you.
Prior to the kid being elected.
I'll tell you this. So we just now got Office 365 rolled out at the end of last year. So it's a process for sure. But I think being a millennial, that's oftentimes not something that a lot of people look at as a way to promote yourself. We're kind of, I think, unfortunately, lumped in with much younger generations. People don't think we're responsible or know what we're talking about. But as we continue to kind of take over these leadership positions, I think it gives us an opportunity to kind of create policy and have conversations that we want to improve things in our communities. And so saw an opportunity to do that in 2016, and I've been fortunate to be elected twice in Mason County, and just it's a great place to work. And
how long is the term?
4-year terms.
Okay. Yeah. So you're in your third term?
Yeah, I'm halfway through my second term. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So will
there be a third term?
No announcements here today, but
can there be a third term?
There can be. Yeah, okay. We're not term limited, but So all those decisions.
I mean, are you enjoying it? Is this something you'd like to stay with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've always kind of approached it.
We're not going to get the exclusive. I understand.
No. I mean, I've always kind of approached it from a process or a project. Perspective. So, where am I at on my to-do list? So I think when we look at everything that has happened in our country and in the world over the past couple of years with the pandemic, and recognizing that that presented hopefully unique challenges, but also some really unique opportunities to lean into work that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So if you look at the American Rescue Plan, if you look at the infrastructure bill that was passed not long ago, we have an opportunity to do things that a lot of counties and local governments haven't been able to do for years when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to building out programming, when you're able to use those funding packages to bring partners together in your community that otherwise might not be coming together on things. And so I'm as optimistic as I have been in my 2 terms. I think for us in Mason County, the arrow's pointing up, and I'm excited to continue moving down that path.
We've talked about clean water. We've talked about the fishing industry, seafood industry, but you're also in the mountains.
Yeah.
What are the challenges with being part of the Cascade Mountain Range and having people come for that?
Well, so great opportunity for tourism. So we bring a lot of people in, especially during the pandemic when indoor activities were a lot more restricted. You can still go out and you can go to your national parks, your national forests. And so over at Olympic National...
Are there both of the national parks?
Yeah, so we have Olympic National Forest and Olympic National Park are in our county, or partially in our county. And so when you have that kind of tourism, it's great. You want people coming into your community, but it also strains other resources, law enforcement, and so we have to work closely with the Park Service and our state Department of Natural Resources, and make sure that we're being good stewards of that land, and still being able to offer access. And so we've been really fortunate to have good partners there with getting projects funded to help do some restoration, and get them up to par and that kind of thing. And so, it's just there's a lot of counties that have public lands in them, and so it's how do we work with the federal government on land management? A lot of counties like ours rely on timber harvest for a little bit of additional funding, and so we want to make sure that the state and federal government are being good stewards of those resources and harvesting when they should be, so that we can have a return on those timber growth.
That's between the land and the sea. There's a lot to pay attention to.
There really is.
Yeah. Is it hard?
It's not hard. It can be complex. And I think.
What's your background? Are you a forester? Are you a fisherman?
No. I'm a teacher by trade. So I went to school to be a high school history teacher, and there's really, my thinking in coming into this line of work I thought I would come out with a lot of firsthand experience of how government works, or maybe how government should work, or whatever. And what I hope to bring to this job and continue to bring to it is just sort of a natural curiosity that allows me to learn from people who do work in those industries, to really be able to be open to and listen to their experiences, and when and where county government can help to do that.
This was the easy part.
Okay.
Are you ready for the hard part?
Let's go.
All right. We have a questionnaire. We're going to get to the heart of your philosophy on government.
All right.
All right. You're
no phone a friend.
No. You're on your own.
On my own.
You're 6 years in.
Yeah.
6 years in.
Yeah.
So from your perspective,
okay.
Here we go. 6 years, county commissioner. Mm-hmm. Define good government.
I think good government is accountable, it's transparent, and it's responsive. And those are the three things that I try to hold myself to. And so I think those kind of form the basis of good government. But the other thing that I would add to that is good government also means good partnerships. And so where we don't always have the main responsibility to actually do something, what we always have a responsibility to do is to facilitate and convene people that can do something.
How do you mention this a little bit? How do you hold yourself accountable?
Well, I try to continue to just be with my constituents. We have the benefit of living and working in the communities that we represent, and unlike the state and federal level, we actually only we don't represent hundreds of thousands of people, at least in our county and in my district. And so, I get it when I go to the grocery store. I get it when I go to church, and when I'm out walking my dog, in the neighborhood, and I think certainly it's appropriate to have some boundaries and be able to have some privacy, but at the same time, that's the deal that I've made with the voters, was that I would be available to them when they needed me, and to listen to them when they're telling me I'm doing it right, and to listen to them when they're telling me I'm doing it wrong, and learn from that.
So being out in the community and making sure that people have access to you, they can tell you how you're doing. And
people don't hold back. So people are pretty comfortable.
I don't want to use the word intimidating, but are they have no compunction at all with, hey, Kevin, you screwed up last week.
Honestly, I think from where it was when I started to where it is now, I think people are a little bit less unbridled in how they share their opinions, and sort of the tone and tenor of some of that. But the vast majority of my interactions are ones that are civil and respectful, and they're generally productive. So
you mentioned that people have no compunction with stopping you and telling you what to do. How else should they hold you accountable?
They get to do it every time I'm on the ballot, and that's, I think there are some counties that have term limits. Yeah. We're one of the ones that do not have term limits, and so every time I get to step up and ask for their vote again, they have an opportunity to say we want to move in a different direction, or keep powering ahead because we agree with the agenda. But the ballot box still reigns supreme in terms of accountability.
How did you do in your last election? Were you
I ran unopposed, so I,
I guess they're pretty happy with you.
I like to think so, but at the same time, I ran for re-election in 2020. Kind of the height of the pandemic, and and I think people had a lot of priorities that maybe went beyond challenging a county commissioner, and we're focused on family and health and all those things. And so, I don't take that for granted. Just because I ran unopposed in 2020, if I run again in 2024, there's no expectation that I'll have that again. And
somebody.
But I welcome that. I think that's a good opportunity to really, debate and discuss not only where our county is, but where it's headed and how we get there.
If people feel like they're not getting good government, what should they do? What would you like to see them do?
Bottom line is show up.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of our meetings, I mean, they're all open to the public. We televise them, we stream them online. There's no substitute to, showing up to these meetings and being respectful, of course, being civil, but if you disagree, saying so, and then I think, on the commission, the three of us, each of the commissioners, we have an opportunity then to share why we're for or against something. And I think, but you're never going to get that redress if you don't show up.
Yep.
And, even when I worked in the state legislature, we always talked about, an email is good, a phone call is better, but if a group of constituents is showing up at the office and they're there in person, they've really made that effort, to have their voice heard. And so I think there's no substitute for showing up.
You have to be there.
Right.
6 years in, what would you like people to know about how government works or doesn't work?
Great question. I think what I want people to know about how government works is kind of that same message. We have a variety of citizen advisory boards in our community. We try to encourage people to give input throughout a planning process or whatever. And I think what I want people to know is that government works best when people participate. And so I think just being able to offer those opportunities is really important. But ultimately, I think at least at the local level, people are concerned about, is my trash getting picked up? Are my potholes getting filled? If I call 911, is somebody going to be able to show up to my house if I need them? And I think those priorities are something that have been communicated back to us time and again. And it's just I think that's good government when we're able to meet those basic needs at the local level, and then maybe make some enhancements to other things along the way as well.
Who is your hero in politics, in government?
Yeah, so I think I'll say two people. One I'll say is my grandfather, who was I think he'd be proud of me regardless. But he was so I was elected as a Republican.
Of course he would be.
But he was a longtime Democratic school board member outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Just a tremendous community-minded person, and it was in an era of government that was a lot different than ours now. They didn't have the open meetings requirements, and and it was a lot more
smoke-filled rooms.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And but what I learned from him, and after he passed away, what I learned from everybody that worked with him was just how important it is to be available and responsive, and I knew that from going and spending summers with my grandparents, and it felt like their front porch was kind of the town hall.
Really?
And so as people would walk by on their way to the store, to church or whatever, just being able to stop by and have those informal conversations about the way things are or the way things people wanted them to be was just really impactful to me. And then the second person that I would say is a person that I have a lot of respect for, is former Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge, who I had the privilege of going to high school with his daughter. We were friends in high school and got to spend some time with him, and as he was governor, and then obviously went on to be our nation's first Secretary of Homeland Security, and just a moderate voice, at a time when it just feels like the temperature's up on everything. He just, I think, provided a good example of how to be bipartisan and effective, how to represent, a diverse set of constituents. And so when I'm going to work, I'm thinking about both of them as just sort of a kind of a political North Star for myself.
You mentioned that you're in a great location for seafood.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite dish? What's the what's the dish I must have when I come to Mason County?
Yeah, so you have to come out to Hama Hama Oysters, right on Hood Canal, and just get a dozen raw oysters and
ooey gooey, no.
on the half shell.
What kind you said the name? I forgot it already.
Ooey
gooey. The
gooey duck. Yeah,
gooey duck. I was close.
Yeah,
right.
You got it. Yeah, so you can try some gooey duck. They do that as well. So, but I would get a dozen of raw oysters on the half shell and enjoy the brine and goodness right on the canal.
All right. Was being in office something you always thought you would want to do?
No. I mean, I went to school to be a teacher, and I thought, that's a good career. That's a noble profession.
That's enough.
Yeah, and I'll be happy with that. And fortunately, I still am able to teach at our local community college a couple of times a year. I do a state and local government class and an American government class there. So I still dip my toes in the teaching world a little bit. But no, it wasn't something that I had set out to do. But I think as I mentioned a couple of times during our conversation, your government is best when people show up, and when you see room for improvement or you want to make change in your community, there's a lot of ways to show up, and so one of those is running for office. And then I thought that would work out for me, and it's been a privilege and great community to represent, and I'm happy that they'll have me for another couple of years. That they'll keep me around
and longer.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Still no announcement. Okay. 6 years in, give me an example of something a good government project you were able to put together.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier the American Rescue Plan was a real game changer for us and certainly local government nationally as well. The direct appropriation from the federal government gave us an opportunity to actually put all of the planning that we've been doing for years and years on infrastructure and community projects, actually put those into motion. And so our county received just under $13 million in rescue plan funds. And so, really proud of the process that we went through to bring people together to do projects. But one of the ones that I'm most excited about is one of our fire districts has started, basically has revived house calls for their rural residents. And so we funded them with about $350,000 to do this pilot program where they now employ a physician's assistant that goes out and works with patients who have non-life-threatening but still emergent issues. Yeah. And the goal there is, one, hopefully get more and more people connected to primary care,
right?
But also to really start to tackle the issue of overcrowding in emergency rooms and just the tremendous amount of cost that comes along with that. So we know that there are significant workforce issues in healthcare for a number of reasons, pandemic-related predominantly. And my wife is a nurse practitioner, and so I hear about those issues at home.
Oh, you hear about this.
And so, I'm acutely aware of that. And so when the fire district at North Mason Regional Fire Authority came to us with this project proposal, it was a no-brainer. To be able to get people more access to health care as a result of a pandemic is a no-brainer. And so we're excited. They want to reduce their trips to the emergency room by 40% in that fire district. I think they'll get there, and I think they'll get there in large part because we were able to come together and fund a program that otherwise would not have gotten funded.
That's an impressive program. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be, I won't say changing lives, but certainly making a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being able to meet people where they are is super important when they're struggling with health issues or transportation or and you walk through the door of an ER via ambulance and the clock starts running at $5,000 and a lot of people can't afford that. And so wherever we can reduce the amount of people who are having to make difficult choices about getting health care or not is a good thing.
This has been a great conversation with you, Kevin Shutty. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the salmon.
Absolutely.
All right.
Can't wait to see you out in Washington.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Good Government Show is sponsored by Ourco. That means our community. Ourco has found a way to make government even more effective. Ourco provides a platform that blends in-person and digital interactions, and that connects people with their government. Their mobile app transforms meaningful conversations into reliable data, and the result is actionable insights that inspires a positive change. It's sort of like having a flash poll. Do you want to know if the community would rather have a dog park or a bike trail? Ourco can get you an answer immediately from the folks in your community. With Ourco, you can engage your citizens or any group, learn what they want, and build programs and policies that advance your county, your job creators, and your constituents. So visit Ourco.com, that's OURCO.com, and learn how they do it. And while you're there, book a demonstration. Puget Sound, shellfish, mountains and lakes, hiking and swimming. There's a lot in Mason County, and it's good to see a young commissioner getting elected and working for the county. Now about that gooey duck. We may have to travel to Japan to try that out. So that was my conversation with Kevin Shutty and how he keeps busy in Mason County. Join me again on The Good Government Show for another conversation with another government leader and hear what they think good government is. And I'll have that next time on The Good Government Show. I'm Dave Martin. Thanks for listening. The Good Government Show and A Conversation With is produced by Valley Park Productions. Jim Ludlow, David Martin, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our editor and producer is Jason Stershic. This is The Good Government Show. Thanks for listening.